slow to get on the ground, and John's most explosive starts, certainly game one, give him a real shot, but the post-board games get significantly more challenging.
So Charles Gordon's going to have the option. He's your #1 seed. He has destroyed this tournament with
Yes.
Esper Stoneblade. And if you thought Esper Stoneblade was gone, you were incorrect.
In
Yes,
fact,
it is still quite good.
In fact, if anything, it's going to be repositioned, I think, more as more aggro tempo, a disruptive deck instead of a pure control deck now with True Name Nemesis being printed.
Yeah.
Because the equipment plan has become so much more reliable.
I like the fact that it was going to play Lingering Souls. I never thought that card was great. I think it had time for a little bit and got bad pretty fast and never really resurfaced.
It's really powerful in honest games, but so is True Name Nemesis.
Yeah. It's almost obsolete now, so both players are keeping the 7. We're underway here in the finals. Ponder to start. Sword of Fire against Engineered Explosives. That's a good one to find.
Yeah, the main deck explosives we saw come up in his top 8 match against Jacob Wilson, and it's also going to be, of course, excellent here.
Yeah. So he's going to keep it, unsurprisingly. Takes the Flooded Strand, leaves the explosives on top, passes back to John.
John leading off with a Windswept Heath. Finds a Bayou. Again, deck lists are disseminated, so no need to worry about Wasteland here.
And giving pause for a moment.
Momentarily frozen in time.
Okay, and good to go again. Now Deathrite Shaman with some fodder, passing the turn. Engineering Explosives the draw. So we'll see if he wants to set this now or try to set more of a trap.
Yeah, I like trapping, especially with a Brainstorm and a fetch land here. You can wait a little while, let John develop his board, and sweep it all away.
You mentioned the Brainstorm. There's also Supreme Verdict, the True Name Nemesis, and that EE. So pretty good hand here for Charles in the first game. See what John wants to do. And the tough thing here for John is that the thought process is, oh, he's got one EE. Don't have to worry about it too much, right?
Yeah. And his hand also just might not allow him the luxury of playing around it anyway.
Mm-hmm. So let's see what happens here. Cradle's going to give him 2. Now he's got 1.
And every time that John plays one of these 1 casting cost creatures, Charles is just pumping his fist.
Yeah, keep going is what he's probably thinking.
Oh man, another.
Yeah.
So lucky.
I like what Charles is doing here too. It's now no mana floating. Which is he's giving H1 a think about if he wants to brainstorm, if he wants to force wall, all that stuff, when in reality, he just wants to set him up for a huge Engineered Explosives. 3 green mana now in the pool. Make it 2 on tap. Crater from his hand. Can he get to 8? Not sure if he can or not. And he just passes the turn back. Yeah, and what he's doing is just setting up a huge Crater Hoof turn to kill him on turn 3.
Mm-hmm.
And bad news.
Turn 3 would usually be pretty reasonable here,
Yeah, turn 3 is not bad, Legacy, right?
No, it's not bad.
That's actually pretty good.
It's before, it's before Charles can get to Supreme Verdict. No big deal,
Charles gonna search through his deck here, get himself a Tundra, and drop the bomb.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough for John to come back from this. He can't activate Wirewood Symbiote, return a creature back to his hand, and start to rebuild. Maybe he returns Deathrite Shaman, what have you. We're gonna see a Brainstorm on the end step. So hit 1, 2, and 3. True Name, Snapcaster, Polluted Delta.
Hand's a little land heavy. I wouldn't be surprised to see him send some of that mana back.
There goes one of them. True Name goes on top. You untap, draw the True Name Nemesis again. And he's going to set it at 1.
Our apologies.
Indeed. And Kablooey. Response, return Deathrite, which seems to be the best one to return here. Keep in mind, of the cards that go to the graveyard, 2 Heritage Druids are gone now.
That's a fairly important part of the mana engine.
Yeah. Windswept Heath. I think there's a Zenith in there now too. So there's the Heath to start. Here's the Shaman. Yeah, Zenith Craterhoof is the grip. Yeah, so tough for John there because he had the turn 3 kill lined up. But I mean, realistically, it's tough to do because, Swords of Plowshares exist. And there's so many things, discard spells that Charles could have. Force of Will.
Yeah. But even still, John would have a reasonable amount of pressure in play at Deathrite Shaman to attacks and spells and just a lot of little beaters in play. So even if the Craterhoof Behemoth plan went off the rails somehow, he would have a lot of just pressure in play to work with.
So Gordon with a clean 4-for-1 with the Engineering Explosives. Here's True Name Nemesis. Plays a Polluted Delta and kicks it back. John's going to sacrifice that Windswept Heath, go down to 18 on Gordon's end step here. So we'll see what land he searches out. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a Dryad, but he's going to go get a Bayou.
Maybe not ready to get his Dryad Arbor when the threat of Umezawa's Jite looms.
Yeah, that's true. So let's see what he found. Is it a Glimpse? Maybe? Looks like he might be Zenithing. Not quite sure what he wants to do right now.
Is he gonna looking at the graveyard there?
Yeah. So he's gonna remove that. He's gonna Zenith for 2 and leave his Cradle open.
What do you suspect he's getting here?
I think Visionary to cantrip and just try to rebuild here. I think that's all that he really can do. Charles considering his options here, but he doesn't have a counter spell. But I like that he always considers everything that the opponent can do, just to put up the idea of I have a force of will. I want to think this through if I want to counter this. The bluffing aspect of it, I think, is really good play.
Yeah, and he's been very consistent about it throughout the game as well so far, which is also important.
So Visionary comes down, draw a card. Couldn't quite make out what that was, but there's a Glimpse over there, so looks like John might want to hold that for a little bit and pass the turn back. So Charles is going to draw a card, see what he finds. Vendilion.
Also not a bad draw here. Charles could also really use any piece of equipment here to speed up this clock.
Yeah.
Particularly Umezawa's Jite.
Now that and Sword both be nice. Pass the turn back. Might see a draw step Vendilion here. Yep, there's the hand. Says,
that seems
wait
like a good
minute.
time.
Yeah, no doubt. So here is a V-click in the draw step. Hand's going to go up. You're going to see a Glimpse of Nature, and that'll Sentinel, a Crater of Behemoth, and Dryad Arbor. So John is reworking his way towards something here.
Yep, absolutely.
As good as that Explosives was, he's rebuilding, and he's doing quite a good job of it. And now the question here is, does Charles Gordon want to take anything with this? And if he does, what are the repercussions, and what can John draw that make things bad for him?
I think there's an enormous risk in allowing him to have a Glimpse of Nature in his hand here. As even if you were to collect the Nettle Sentinel at the bottom, there's a chance that there's a creature just waiting on top of John's deck, and he can start to semi-go off, and then just naturally cast Craterhoof Behemoth, so...
What does he draw? I think it's a Birchlore Ranger, yeah.
Although John's still between the Cradle and the mana creatures that he's drawing here, he's quickly getting to the point where he'll be able to actually cast the Craterhoof Behemoth.
Yeah, he's almost there again. And he needs to, again, tread lightly, because now he knows he's through the Engineer Explosives part of the game. So now the probably thing that's in the forefront of his mind is Supreme Verdict, because he knows that Charles has 2 in his deck, and, what can I do to work my way around that?
John's hand may not afford him the luxury of playing around Supreme Verdict at this point.
That's true. So there's Nettle Sentinel. He thought about playing Birchlore. I don't know if he wants to reveal that he has that yet, though. Cradle's going to tap for 4. So that's going to get that into play. And so now he's just casting all his spells again to set up a lethal Craterhoof Behemoth, which is what he tried to do earlier in the game. And that plan's going to get kind of wrecked again.
Yep. And I think what you're going to see here is John hit down to 9 by Charles's 2 evasive creatures. Supreme Verdict getting cast, and then Charles trying to win with the leftovers.
Yep, so John passes the turn back and says, please don't have a verdict, but bad news. Or a piece of equipment, of course. Or polluted delta off the top. Yep, and so there's the attack for 9 that you predicted. Let's see if the second piece of the puzzle.
I mean, it's pretty gutsy to not cast the Supreme Verdict here, so.
And there is the verdict. So, all those creatures get cleaned up. Don't forget about that Dryad Arbor either, as Deathrite Shaman's going to get activated. It's going to remove a Brainstorm for 2 points of damage. But everything else goes to the graveyard again.
John gets to put all of his creatures in the graveyard for the second time in this game.
Yeah. Polluted Delta and pass the turn back. Gordon's hand now has a Snapcaster Mage and that a True Name Nemesis. Wirewood Symbiote, the card drawn. Pass the turn back. Gordon takes a draw step here. Counterspell.
Yep. Shutting another door.
And you can just really see the uphill climb that Harduvel has. Or, Harduvel does have in this match.
Charles even has access to Snapcaster for Supreme Verdict again if things got out of control.
Yeah. It's really, really tough. Pass the turn back. And I don't think that John has done anything wrong in this game. I think he just has to continually just go for it and hope the opponent doesn't have it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that John played as well as his hand allowed him to, but Charles's draw just was so good against Elves this game.
Sacrifice a land, go get a forest. Thin his deck out a little bit. Sitting at 6 life, so 2-turn clock here from the True Name Nemesis. Says you can cut if you'd like to. Gordon obliges. John takes a draw step. It's definitely a spell. It's attack for 1. Puts Gordon down to 16. Pass the turn back. That's a cradle, excuse me.
Yeah, and John fell to 5 because of the fetch land.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just drawn a sword that would be lethal, but Charles taking no risks here, simply attacks. Has to feel pretty safe with Counterspell in his hand.
Yeah. And that's going to do it. So, Charles Gordon does win game number 1 here. Esper Stoneblade over John Harduvel. Playing combo elves, and John's going to go right to the sideboard, and we're going to come back here to the booth really quickly because it is our time for our final premium giveaway. I'll fire away a question, so get your hashtags open on Twitter, hashtag SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live as well. Question is pretty simple for 12 months in our Twitch t-shirt over here. Last time, I'm going to miss them. I like this shirt.
We got a huge box of them in the back, dude.
No, we don't. This is the only one that we have.
We do actually have quite a few
I'm
of
going
them.
to cut it into 6 pieces and give one to everyone who won. That's what we're going to do.
I
didn't say they were whole shorts.
Yeah, you get a fraction of it.
Absolutely. The question's pretty easy, so make sure you get this one right. Next weekend we've got an invitational, and it's gonna be. Don't laugh, I screwed it up this morning. Keep it together, man.
No, I'm with you.
Keep it together.
I'm still here. I got your back.
Come on.
I got your back.
Next week we've got an invitational. Myself, Matthias, Osip will be doing coverage. You'll be in attendance.
I'll be hanging out.
Yeah, in one fashion or another.
Yep.
Tell us where it is. Where is the invitational? Not the state, the city. So if you can do that. Yeah, if you can tell us the city of the invitational is in next weekend. Hashtag your answer with SCG Premium at SCG Live, all that good stuff. And we'll announce the winner at the conclusion of this match, which may be over pretty quickly if it goes like Game 1 did. We'll take a look at the sideboards here. We'll start with John and his elf deck. He's got a Pith Needle, he's got a Progenitus, a Scavenging Ooze. He's got 3 Abrupt Decays, 2 Mindbreak Traps, 3 Cabal Therapies, a Natural Order, and 3 copies of Thoughtseize. I like the idea of discard. I don't know how good it is.
Yeah, I think that the discard spells are probably for more dedicated combo decks. There is a big cost for the elf deck to add spells to its deck because it's so tribal focused and creature focused because of Glimpse and Natural Order that I don't know how much of this he can afford to bring in. That said, the spells that Charles has access to are so powerful and devastating in the matchup that he may actually have to bring in more discard than he naturally would like to fight against some of this stuff. And on Charles' side of the table, as we mentioned before, he has 2 copies of Zealous Persecution, which are A pluses here, an additional Supreme Verdict, a Humility, and 4 copies of Meddling Mage, I think, that are all in play to be brought in here. I'm not exactly sure where he's supposed to make cuts because his deck is so... everything is very powerful here. I think the least powerful card in his deck is probably Counterspell and Batterskull, which are fine cards overall. So I don't exactly know how much wiggle room he has, but he has additional discard spell and Thoughtseize as well you can go to, but I do very strongly suspect that the two Zealous Persecutions, the Supreme Verdict, and the Humility will be coming in. But he even has more cards in the sideboard that are, you know, for many players it would be, this is one of my cards in my sideboard for Elves, but Charles's main deck and sideboard is so well set up for this matchup that I don't even know if he needs to go to some of these fringe players.
Yeah, his deck is hateful.
It is
Against
really
creatures.
hateful.
It is a very, very hateful deck. And he's run into some matchups, and things are going well. Things are going well.
Yeah, I had to imagine his build is making a lot of concessions to the combo matchup.
Yeah.
You see 4 Meddling Mages in his sideboard, for example, a Thoughtseize, a Flusterstorm, a Grafdigger's Cage. He's giving, he's spending a lot of his sideboard equity to fight the unfair decks. But his 60 cards game 1 against other honest decks, I think, is about as good as you can get, really.
So we'll see. You see Charles is taking a look at the deck list and the sideboarding here, figure out what he wants to do, and he's got to be feeling pretty good about things right now.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're always sweating every match, no matter what, and especially in Legacy, and especially against the unfair decks, because you never know when they're just going to have their explosive draws that you really can't handle. But, I think if you had these two decks and sat down across from each other, Pilots of Evil's kill, play 10 times, I think Charles's deck probably wins 8 or 9 times, and you got to feel pretty good when you're in that kind of position, already up a game.
Yeah, agreed. Got to agree. But we've seen John play Elves over the course of the day. Very skilled Elves player. And I don't think he did anything wrong game 1. I just think right answers at the right time for Gordon.
No, I mean, the Engineer Explosives was obviously extremely timely for Charles to have that early in the game. And John was actually able to rebuild from that and was in a position to again threaten lethal.
Mm-hmm.
But the Supreme Verdict was the nail in the coffin there.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see how players are going to sideboard here as we do make our way to game number 2. Both players look happy with their configuration as they do look everything over. Got their information. Now it's time to shuffle up and rock and roll.
Yeah, it's kind of this interesting thing with Charles's list that I've been thinking about some. If he has the 2 main deck Supreme Verdicts, you don't see those very often. He has so many creatures in his deck. And we've seen that, the Wrath Away My Own Creatures thing come up a couple times in his matches. But because of the amount of equipment that he has in his deck, he can take any one of his creatures and turn into a monster.
Mm-hmm.
And True Name Nemesis is such a powerful thing to play post Supreme Verdict against any deck that's creature oriented, where you want to be casting Supreme Verdict in the first place. That even though there is some awkwardness and some weird tension with the number of creatures he has and having Supreme Verdict, it kind of plays well together.
He's making one last minute change, this Charles. Thought of something else. I've been here before.
Yeah.
I pile shuffle my deck and I'm like, man, that's a good idea. Let's do that too.
Right. I'll Wrath you. You have 1 or 2 creatures probably left in your hand. You play them. I play True Name Nemesis.
Yeah.
So now, or I play a Stoneforge Mystic and get a Battered Skull. Or, whatever the case may be.
And that'll end it.
And that will end it. A lot of good things to recover from a Wrath from in Charles's deck.
It's funny too, because True Name isn't great in this matchup, and I don't even know if he's going to leave them in, but it's certainly not bad.
I mean, if he's bringing in the Supreme Verdict, it certainly gets, the third Supreme Verdict, it certainly gets a little bit worse. I also don't think that Charles wants to draw multiple copies of them.
Sure.
And I don't really think that you need specifically True Name Nemesis to put a Numazawa's Jute on, because nearly any creature will get the job done.
Yeah, depending on the board that John has, because of the little funky shenanigans with Wirewood Symbiote and Queer and Ranger and being able to pick up a blocker and that stuff.
Yeah.
So True Name Nemesis guarantees that it's going to hit.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple weird sort of backdoor ways that John has to fight over Umazawa's Jute. And also, if you suspect that John is going to be bringing in his Abrupt Decays, then that's an even louder argument to take out True Name Nemesis. It's really only good in the matchup, I believe, when Jit is on it.
Yeah.
So if you think that your Umazawa's Jutes are going to be taxed anyway, maybe it's best to put that entire package on the sideline.
All right, players looking at their opening hands. John's going to take a look-ski. Some curious watchers here behind him. He says, I'm going to keep. Charles. Giving a good look over.
Looking at some lands and spells, and looks like he's happy to go.
All right, we're underway. There is Misty Rainforest, 19 for John. Searching very, very quickly here. Right on the top of the deck is where the bayou is.
Trying to get a gander over Charles's hand here. He appears as a humility, a plow,
Swords.
a sword, a Stoneforge Mystic, a Force of Will.
Yikes. And now a Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize.
So you can go get a scrub land with this.
You know, we've been talking a little bit about how well, Charles is drawn here, but in fairness, there aren't a lot of lands and spells draws that he can get that aren't really good against elves.
Yeah, that's the thing. Most of his draws that he's going to have are just going to be good.
Every spell he draws is like, wow, that's good against elves.
Yep. All right, so present, and now he says, let's see what's going on. All right, Grip's going to come up. So here's Wirewood Symbiote, an Abrupt Decay, Crater of Behemoth, a Glimpse, and a Cradle. Those are the 5 cards.
Yeah, this is a pretty rough hand for John here once this Glimpse gets stripped, assuming that it does. He doesn't have he kind of has nowhere to go with this hand.
Mm-hmm.
He has a removal spell, an uncastable Behemoth, and a Symbiote with no real synergy to capitalize on.
He's really good at drawing that Symbiote. Natural Order. Or excuse me, he's really good at drawing that Behemoth. Excuse me.
Or bad, as the case may be.
Yeah. In for 1. Here comes the Symbiote. And there is... we thought it was going to be the Cradle. Maybe not.
I mean, the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, he does know about it.
There's no Wasteland.
I wonder why he wouldn't. Okay, so there that is. And passing it back, all right. Cord's going to take a draw here.
Appear to be Batterskull.
Okay. Not going to have a huge role in this game. It's possible maybe it does a little bit later down the road, but certainly not immediately. Let's see if he's going to fire away with a Swords or a Path. Yeah, get this thing out of here, he says. Yep. You don't ever want to let Wirewood Symbiote hang around. It causes a lot of trouble. He's basically knocking down the Cradle mana, getting creatures off the board as the bayou is drawn for the turn. So he can cast Natural Order after attacking. No, he can't. Can he? No, not yet. Yeah, pass the turn back. You think he brings Progenitus in here? I guess a deck that has Wrath.
I don't think so, but I think that I would probably. I think he brought in the Progenitus against
Death and Taxes.
Death and Taxes, for example, which is not a place I would have suspected that I would have brought it in. So he might be a little more liberal with Progenitus than I am, but it's really hard to say. I mean, it basically puts him on Wrath or Bust, but it's definitely an uphill battle for John to get that resolved and in play.
Yeah, there's the Jitte. So now it's kind of this thing where he's really got to get moving now.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, he does have the option to go for it now. He's just trying to land.
Hey, if that's what it takes, there's a Wooded Foothills. He has the Behemoth in his hand, so does he have Progenitus in his deck?
And the big question here is, as much of a long shot as Natural Order is for John here, what else does this hand allow you to do?
Mm-hmm.
You have a Crater of Behemoth and Abrupt Decay.
And he just passes the turn back and doesn't even Abrupt Decay the Stoneforge Mystic, which is a little bit surprising.
Well, I mean, Charles has enough mana at this point. He's going to be able to cast any creature that he wants to and also get a Jitte on it. So
yeah. Passing the turn back. All right, so sacrifice a Wooded Foothills. Maybe he goes and gets a Dryad Arbor here to add mana for the Cradle.
And we see exactly that.
The reason that the reason I bring up the Abrupt Decay of the Fit Mystic is just so there's no creature in play, but I guess it's just better just to kill the actual equipment. Just get that thing gone for good.
Yeah.
Well, we might see a Path Exile here on the end step. And let's take a look at the Grand Ranger return a forest, so he can just pick up that Dried Arbor in response to the path. You see, Gordon has told John just to hold on 1 second before you start taking your turn.
Charles right now trying to do the permutation on the math. So many variables with the amount of mana that John can generate through that cradle.
So draw another Abrupt Decay here. So doesn't make a move with the Path to Exile. Just passes the turn back. So I think this is a pretty loud sign that he doesn't have for Jonas. Okay. All right. Put in Batter Skull. Does not put in Jit.
Yeah, I mean he's got another. Well, he does know about one Abrupt Decay. It's reasonable to assume that there are others.
Yep. So Charles is going to untap. He'll take a draw step, see what he finds. Force to go on with the other force. And his true name, his Snapcaster in his hand, excuse me. So has counter spells here at the ready too. Esper Stoneblade does a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything great, but does everything above average.
He's also got Snapcaster for Swords of Plowshares at the ready too. I mean, Charles is firmly in the driver's seat right now.
This is very reminiscent of a match I think Tom Martell and I were covering at the Invitational in Atlanta a little earlier this year when Ross Marion was playing against Shaheen Sarani in the semifinals, where it was just such an uphill climb for Ross when he was playing Elves. And it feels really the same way here for John, where Snapcaster Mage is going to come in. It's going to attempt to target Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is going to resolve now, targeting John. And just everything that Charles is doing in these games, much like what Shaheen was doing against Ross, was just, wow, that's really good.
Yep.
That's really good. That's really good. Where a lot of the time, when you're playing against Esper Stoneblade, some of the stuff they're doing isn't that really impressive.
Right.
You know, some decks don't care about the discard. Some decks don't care about the removal. Elves cares about all of it.
Everything, every piece matters.
Yeah, every single one is good. Stoneforge is good. Snapcaster. Even Force is good here.
Yeah.
You know? It's above average. Sometimes Force is mediocre to bad. It's just really, really tough. And Thoughtseize going to take down the Natural Order.
The most threatening card in John's not especially threatening hand.
And Thoughtseize is gone for good, of course, because it was flashback via Snapcaster Mage. And now he's going to sacrifice his Flood Gem. I might just see the Path Exile here on the Grand Ranger. And
Yep.
now that Charles knows that, John really doesn't have much of anything.
Yeah, he just wants to start connecting with his creatures here. He's not really going to be too much in on trying to get Umezawa's Jade on anything now that he's aware of the presence of 2 Abrupt Decays in John's hand, but the Powder Skull and random other creatures that Charles adds to the board will be more than enough.
All right. So there is your path. He'll be able to get one of those beautiful miscut forests. There that is.
And now Charles sitting on a hand. He's got a reasonable clock. He's got a Force of Will to protect himself. If he draws a land, he has access to 2 copies of Force of Will to protect himself.
Draw step for that turn. I believe it was Zenith. Yeah.
Yeah, Green's on Zenith.
And now that Charles is working on basically perfect information about what John has outside of the Zenith, if the Zenith is placed on the stack, I think it is worth Force of Willing. So, Dried Arbor comes in. It's going to make a little bit, actually going to give Cradle 1 mana as opposed to 0 now. Add some to the pool. We'll see a Zenith here for some number, it looks like. John is trying to figure out how much it's going to be. So this is going to be for... Is it 2? Is it 1? Is it 3? What's it going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think he wants to do it for 3 here, potentially, and go get a Viridian Shaman to blow up the Batter Skull.
Problem is, that's not going to resolve. His Force of Will is going to get removed from Force of Will. Take care of the Zenith.
Yeah, so Charles's shields are kind of down here a little bit, but John needs to draw very well from the spot on because his hand doesn't really go anywhere.
Yep. Charles draws. It's another Stoneforge Mystic. So Umezawa Shite is going to come in. That's going to get equipped to a guy. And I actually like this because he gets in his one shot because there's 2 abrupt decays, so the Jit's really going to it's only going to have a small effect on this game. Batterskull and Stoneforge are doing more than enough, so he takes the hit. It can take care of the Dryad Arbor. 5 counters would be a lot to start with on him, so but now the 2 counters go on. He can take care of the Dryad Arbor, which slows down the Cradle, and keep pressing advantage this way and make it so that John's turn is abrupt decay the GT, and then basically that's it.
I've been really impressed with Charles's play. This is a really good spot to pick a spot here to get in that hit with the GT. And all through the elimination rounds, his play's been really crisp and really technically sound.
I mean, all the matches that we've watched him play, we cut into the Affinity game where it was pretty one-sided with the Meddling Mage naming Edge champion, but winning that match 2-0 in what could be a difficult matchup. The match against Jacob Wilson that we watched to start the elimination rounds, really well played. Just everything that I've seen so far from him, just his demeanor, everything has been really good.
Yeah.
Here's Abruptskate. It's going to take down that GT. Not surprised to see him here as the first seed.
Yep. It's my first time watching him play.
Same.
Yep.
Same. Take a draw. Force of will to go along with that Stoneforge. Into the red zone come the creatures, so it's deck for 4, 5, 6, 7. So you've got John on a 2-turn clock. Stoneforge Mystic can come in and search for Sword of Fire and Ice if it wants to. I suppose John could cast an Abrupt Decay this turn.
Yeah, he could. He could Abrupt Decay the Snapcaster, or I suppose the Germ token's more efficient here.
And so there is a forest. So Abrupt Decay is going to be put on the stack here. I believe it'll take down the Germ token. Yep, so there that goes. So only attack for 3. Going to put John down to 10. And then we can add a Stoneforge to the board if he wants to, because he doesn't have the 5th land. But I think he just wants to go pick up my Batterskull.
Yeah.
As there is a Verdant Catacombs and pass the turn back. So Gordon does pick up Batterskull with the 3 mana. There is a Tundra. Attack for 3. Puts you down to 7. He can put Batterskull into play. The hard way. He's just going to pass the turn back. Oh, okay.
Well, if he was going to do that, I'm a little surprised he attacked with the Stoneforge.
Same.
If John doesn't do anything worth forcing, then you can just, you can end of turn use the Stoneforge to put the Batterskull into play.
Yeah. So on untap here, draw another Stoneforge Mystic. So just attack here with the Snapcaster Mage, willing to trade off this with the Heritage Druid, but John can't afford to do that because he can't really get anything going unless he has Elves in play. It's almost like playing a Devotion deck.
Right.
So now Stoneforge is back, ready to put Batterskull back into play.
Symbiote the draw here.
Yeah. So that might get forced.
It is definitely an irritant.
Yeah. And that is going to get forced, so it doesn't mess with Batterskull. So there goes the 1/1 Insect. As John is slowly but surely making his way towards being the Legacy Open champion here.
Was that Zealous Persecution?
I believe that was. So he's going to attack here for 2.
I mean, that was lethal, right?
Yeah, I think, if he does cast that.
The draw step for John appears to be a Glimpse.
Yep. So now in comes the Batterskull. Well, in comes the Zealous. I think he may have missed that. He could have done that for lethal. If you've never played with Zealous and like the white token mirrors.
Sure.
Yeah, which I have a lot of experience doing, but not everyone does, so I could see missing that. And just looking at it, it's just removal spell, something instead of something you can use offensively and clear blockers with. But either way, you got a lethal attack, you got a handshake. Charles Gordon with Esper Stoneblade, the #1 seed throughout the top 8.